So Anna's asked me to share a little bit about kind of what's this process that I was talking about. You know, how I said that every project is different and we never know the solution up front, but there is a kind of predictable process that tends to happen, well, for us anyway. We've kind of figured this out in retrospect, actually, but it's quite handy to know now because it gives you a bit more guidance and reassurance as you're moving into some pretty unknown territory. We call it showing up differently, which you probably see as I share this with you. So you know how I said our core kaupapa is collective approaches to complex issues, right? Complex issues, gnarly issues, intractable things that we've all tried to work on forever and we're not making much progress on. Collective approaches to those are the only way through. So obviously the collective is really vital. You know, the individual has got some value, but not by themselves. We all bring different parts to this. So collective and collaboration is really important. One of the ironies, though, is that we've figured out that collaboration is not the goal. It's an amazing thing to say that, because collaboration is not only kind of like an attractive sounding thing, but also quite trendy. You know, I know a lot of government colleagues who literally say to me, we've been told we have to collaborate. You know, and that is true. State Services Commission say you must collaborate between the agencies. You know, it's the way we need to work. So there's no doubt that collaboration is important, but what we've figured out, and it's quite useful to know, it's not the end point. It's really just a process along the way to get to the end point. All right. So it's not like you sit there and go, oh, we're collaborating, we've arrived. It's like we're collaborating, what's this for? All right. So which kind of begs the question of like, what is it for? And for us, we've got two main reasons. And there's one which is, I guess, simpler and a bit lower level maybe, but still important. So efficiency, you know, if you're doing that and I'm doing that and the other person's doing that, why don't we just work together and save money or save room or get better price or, you know, save overlap or all of that kind of thing. And that makes good sense. All right. It's not that inspirational, but it's, you know, crazy the amount of lack of efficiency that's out there, you know, things replicated 1,000 times. The other big reason is this idea of impact. And we this is what I said before. For us, collaboration is a game changer when it comes to complex issues. But it's only to be used on things that can't be solved individually. So I often say to organizations and communities, if you can do this without others, then you should. All right, because just get on with it, just do it. All right, because you've got to understand that if you're going to move into collective and collaboration, there's going to be a lot of hard work, a bit of pain, and quite a lot of tantrums. Right, so you wouldn't want to do it for fun, would you? You know, you'd want to do it only for the reason of impact. All right. Now, I'm not saying collaboration can't be fun. It absolutely can be, but it usually doesn't start very fun. And let's unpack that a little bit. So one of the things we've found across Leadership Lab is this. We can't even remember who made it up in our team, but this
using the tool. I think upon reflection.
Hello, someone's just come in.
Right, yeah, just right. I've just muted them. Sorry about that, Chris. Yeah,
it's a bit of Zoom fun. It's fine. We've someone coined this in a meeting, and we thought, yeah, this really makes sense. So as you look at that quote, I'm just going to ask you the question of which one word jumps out at you. If you had to choose one of those words, which one would it be? All right. So just have a wee think. You're probably not going to choose around and I'd say, but which of those words? You know. Now, if I was with you in person, we'd do a bit of a vote here. But I reckon if I went through them, I'd get, you know, some people like determined, others like collaboration, some like compelling purpose, some like ignite, some like possibilities. All right. Now, I do too, but the one that really, really interests me is the word ignites. All right. Because often the energy or lack of it is the problem. You know, you don't generally get handed a collaboration, say, here you go, it's fully funded, off you go. All right. There's a whole lot of self-starting energy required to create a collective approach or a collaboration, and it's not normally predetermined. So what's the ignition point? Like, where does the energy come from? It's certainly not going to be resource. In fact, money sometimes makes it a problem. It's better for there to be no money initially. So what's the ignition point? And we have this, again, silly kind of metaphor, I guess, but we call it the cup. Now, I don't know why it was a cup. It could be a candle or a vase or something else, but I think it was that when we first talked about this, there was a cup on the table. So we just picked it up and said, okay, it's like a cup. right? So the cup represents the gnarly, aggravating issue that one person names, all right? And the process we've seen happen in pretty much everything we do is that it all starts from one or two people going, I've had a guts full of this. I've had enough of this. This is appalling and I'm over it and we've got to stop this happening. And that's the cup. So the first step is some courageous person going, no way, no more. And so it's almost like they're putting a metaphorical cup on the table saying, this sucks and we really got to do something about it. I've had enough and I've got a fair bit of negative energy around trying to make that go away. And then the next part that happens is there's someone else, maybe literally in the room, like in a cafe over a coffee cup, might go, yeah, that's so right. And they also get triggered by the same cup. So what you end up finding is you get a bunch of people, and usually it's a whole bunch of conversations all talking about the cup. And what's ironic is that the beginning part of the process is very negative, right? Because a cup can also be positive. It might be, hey, I would really love it if we could get an emergent future in Queenstown where tourism is not the only main source of income and it was sustainable, blah, blah, blah. Now that's a great thing. But the irony is that it seems like an aggravating negative emotion is more igniting initially than a positive thing. Now, there's probably some human psychology to that, all right? But I think it's because our values are breached by these cups, in the Link project in Christchurch, that was, in fact, I think I can show you it here. I'll just go forward for a moment. Yeah, this was their cup in Christchurch. And what happened is 12 months after the earthquake, there was a lot of cool community stuff happening in the first 12 months. And then one of my mates from Addington, who was running a men's shed, burnt out and left town. And it was just a really negative buzz for him. And there was a bunch of us sitting around going, man, there's a real dark side to this. This is appalling. In fact, all the good people who are popping up and doing stuff are burning out. And if we're not careful, we're going to end up with a ghost town, right? So that was a very negative kind of emotion initially. Now that would be a bit of a downer if that's all you ever talked about, right? Because you just be sort of whinging about that. But what's really neat in the process is that we've found is that as people come around the cup and start really, unpacking the aggravation, someone then goes, and wouldn't it be great if, and so there's this little spark of like, alternative, right? Maybe that could happen. And so what tends to happen is that the conversation starts switching to a bit of ideation, really. We're like, there's 10 of us here talking about this. Wouldn't it be great if, blah. And so that sort of leads into the next phase when all these ideas start popping out. And the great thing about that is that all of us have ideas by ourselves, but we're usually not gutsy enough to say them unless there's a bunch of people around who are like-minded. And so that kind of environment creates this kind of, wouldn't it be great if this, or wouldn't it be great if that, or maybe we should talk to this person, or wouldn't it be great to get them involved, or wonder if we can get some money for this, or all of that kind of thing. And that's kind of the next phase of it. And then that leads into, okay, shall we do it? Shall we do one of those things? Let's have a go at it. Now, that very organic sort of coffee table conversation is a process. And in this, I'll come back in the slides in a moment, Anna, but in this document, which you'll get afterwards, we've kind of spent some time articulating that because it is a replicable process. Now, if I show you how it kind of works for us, this is the cup. Okay, so what always happens is someone identifies the issue, and it's usually a threat, not an opportunity, right? But of course, they're two sides of the same coin, so the Queenstown one is the threat is if we don't do something, all the good people are going to leave because they've got no choice. And then perhaps when the economy lifts again, we'll be left with a ghost town and no community, no business community, no anything, right? But the opportunity is obviously the opposite of that. Wouldn't it be great if we could retain the fantastic people in some way, in a way that they don't have to be hurt and they can pay their mortgages, so that as we get through this, we can rebound really strongly, right? So that's the cup. And then what happens is, in flash words, engage stakeholders, but really it means who else cares. All right, so I name the issue, who else cares? So I say, I've had a guts full of this. Anna goes, yeah, me too. So that's that step. And then Ha goes, yeah, me too. So you got three. And then Corral jumps in, and before you know it, you've got a bunch of people at step two. right? And then that pivots into, again, fancy word, co-design, but what really means is dream up some ideas. Yeah. And the energy comes because people start getting excited, because what you're doing is you're triggering optimism. All right. And optimism is such a key when all the emotions are going the other way, in terms of, God, the world's falling apart, woe is us. And then out of that, you end up in this kind of loop. And I'll show you a better picture of it in a minute. But basically, this is where you go, well, let's try one of those things. Let's see if it works. Let's try two of those things. All right, let's check out whether they work. And we find that one works and one doesn't. So we refine it really quickly. All right, and we loop it back and we design something more. So that bottom bit is a loop. Now, if I show you in a flash picture, this is what you'll see in the document. What we're really saying is, let's see if I can move that thing at the top. You can see there's community, there's funders and providers all coming together here. So it's not like just providers or just government or just funders, it's everybody together going, what are the issues? Then the engage phase is the who else cares. Co-design phase is the, well, what are some of the options here? Define phase is let's pick one or two. Implement, okay, and evaluation is not like your typical evaluation report. This is like, how did that go yesterday? It's called developmental evaluation or sense making. So that middle sort of square looking circle happens within about a week, and it keeps looping 1,000 times. Right now, what pops out at the bottom is impact, and you can see impact on the original issue, but also multiple exponential outcomes. So if I just run that through in the Queenstown story, the people naming the issue were the council in this case, but they probably did it because a whole lot of people told them, geez, if we don't do something, we're going to lose all our good people here. All right. They put it out there and said, who else is interested? They also engaged formally. That's where we jumped in. But what we ran is a big co-design process. So we had lots of coffees and lots of focus groups, which is that engaged co-design. We didn't really know what we were going to do in this project at that point, but we wanted to hear what the issues were and what the possible solutions were. Then we had the end of phase one, we had to define it a bit and say, what should we do in phase two, which was the strength coaching. So we did that. And that worked actually pretty well for most people. But we also changed part of it. And some people did a different form of coaching, right? Because the strength coaching didn't work for them. And so we changed it around. And for some people, we did a collective, like a workshop thing, not individual coaching. That was fine. We just kept redesigning it. Yeah. Now we're in the third phase, which is the bringing people together phase. The hui went really well. But to be honest with you, what we're finding right now is that it's very hard to get people together. A, because of, the lockdown we've just had, but also because they're, economically up against the wall. All right. So we're kind of in this kind of co-design, redefined loop again, going, no one knew that this year we were going to go into lockdown again, that it was going to be this bad, and potentially it's going to be a long time before things improve. We need to really engage with that circle again. So we're going back into co-design, but this time it's with, more than 100 local community leaders and business leaders, and asking them what they think. So just a couple more minutes there to finish. I'm just really trying to illustrate the, I guess, simplicity, but predictability of this process. We're not ruled by this process, but we just kind of tried to draw a picture of what seems to happen naturally. And if I just pop back here for a moment, I think I skipped over this. Yeah, I'll just go here. This guy, Brad Jackson, he's a lecturer at Victoria University, and he's a bit of a hero of mine. And he wrote this article a while ago, which kind of was before Leadership Lab started, which is maybe why we started. But his point was this here, and if I just circle the main thing, he said, my point earlier about collaboration, he says, it's not about collaborating with your mates, right? And with the people that are already in your own team. That's teamwork or collegiality. What you're really looking for is collaborations where you can cross the divides. And that means you may end up around the cup with people that you don't like, particularly. In fact, you want to be, because the whole reason why the issue is an issue is because the system around it is fragmented. All right. So as a leader, which I'm sure all of you are, from a community perspective, what you're doing is you're hosting these conversations around a cup with very diverse partners, and you're purposely inviting people who you don't particularly resonate with, right? Because they are part of the government, or they're part of another group, or they're a competitor, or they're, very different than you. But you're purposely choosing to bring that diversity in, because if you don't, you're not going to be able to get a solution in the long term. The only problem with that is you're going to have, because relationships is not a precondition, relationships is a result of this process, you end up with a lot of tantrums. All right. And I've found, as a person trying to lead collaboration or facilitate collaboration, my main skill set is, we call it the ninja skill set, but it's the one of being able to manage challenging conversations and conflict, and being able to create space and hold space, as someone said. And, you come around the table and someone naming the cup and you're all going, well, I mean, someone says something which is offensive and someone else leaves the table in disgust. What do you do now? Now you have to go and talk to both of them, and you have to rebuild that and bring people back to the table, right? And when they come back to the table, they don't come back because they like the people initially. They only come back because the cup is important to them. Now, the lovely thing probably to finish with is that we're involved in a bunch of collaborations with very diverse groups now, and we actually do like them, all right? But we probably didn't really resonate with them at the beginning. But through the process of grappling with this and all the courageous conversations and tantrums, we've got this kind of rigorous relationship around the issue. They're not our mates, right? But they are our collaborators. And so I guess for the breakouts, what we're going to do is ask you what your cup might be. And so just to give you an example, another cup we had was, we lost 150 schools in Christchurch, which you probably know. We're rebuilding 150 schools, which is a ridiculous challenge, isn't it? And we've rebuilt about half of them now, 10 years later. But, there must be a way of doing that which really transforms education. That's a gnarly cup, right? This is the link one. Wouldn't it be great if in 10 years' time we had a resilient, strong, vibrant community leadership network? Well, we do in Aotearoa, but that wasn't accidental, all right? And this is the Queenstown one, work in progress. I don't know what's going to happen here, but my hope would be 2 or 3 years in the future, Queenstown and Wanaka, Cromwell and Te Anau will be able to say we're really, really resilient and strong as a community and business leaders.